60 Minutes Rewind.
Tonight, we'll take you inside the growing, shadowy global market of cyber espionage. We look specifically at a controversial Israeli company called the NSO Group, valued at nearly $1 billion, that says it developed a hacking tool that can break into just about any smartphone on Earth. NSO licenses this software, called Pegasus, to intelligence and law enforcement agencies worldwide, so they can infiltrate the encrypted phones and apps of criminals and terrorists. Problem is, this same tool can also be deployed by a government to crush dissent. And so it is that Pegasus has been linked to human rights abuses, unethical surveillance, and even to the notoriously brutal murder of the Saudi Arabian critic Jamal Khashoggi. Headquartered in the Israeli city of Herzliya, NSO Group operates in strict secrecy.
And I said to them,
but co-founder and CEO Shalev Julio has been forced out of the shadows and not into a good light, accused of selling Pegasus to Saudi Arabia despite its abysmal record on human rights. And the word is that you sold Pegasus to them, and then they turned it around to get Khashoggi.
Khashoggi murder is horrible, really horrible. And therefore, when I first heard there are accusations that our technology being used on Jamal Khashoggi or on his relatives, I started an immediate check about it. And I can tell you very clear, we had nothing to do with this horrible murder.
It's been reported that you yourself went to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. You yourself sold Pegasus to the Saudis for $55 million.
Don't believe newspapers.
Is that a denial? No. Pegasus is so expensive because it lets authorities do what they long couldn't, break into smartphones remotely, making everything in them completely visible. All emails, contacts, and texts, new, old, encrypted or not. Pegasus allows detectives and agents to track locations, listen in to and record conversations, basically turning the phone against its user. In the company's 8-year history, they have never let cameras in, but they wanted to show us they're like any high-tech company, with PlayStations and Pilates. But there was a lot we couldn't show. Notice no faces. The work is top secret, and some employees are ex-military intelligence and Mossad. Pegasus is such a sensitive spy tool, NSO has to get approval before it can be licensed to any client, let alone Saudi Arabia, from the Israeli Defense Ministry, as though it's an arms deal. Why would the government of Israel want, what seems to be an enemy to have this technology?
I'm not going to talk about specific customer.
But can you say that you won't and haven't sold Pegasus to a country that is known to violate human rights and imprison journalists and go after activists?
I only say that we are selling Pegasus in order to prevent crime and terror.
We have the suspect vehicle stop.
Penetrating an iPhone was an issue in the terrorist attack in San Bernardino, California in 2015.
Right now we have one down outside the car.
The FBI said it couldn't get into the shooter's phone, and Apple refused to help over privacy concerns, an issue that had come up before.
Intelligence agencies came to us and say, we do have a problem with the new smartphones. We cannot longer get valuable intelligence.
They were encrypted.
Exactly.
How many lives do you think Pegasus has saved?
Tens of thousands of people.
Really?
Yes.
Julio referred us to the head of a Western European intelligence agency who, off camera, confirmed that Pegasus is a game changer in foiling attacks by European jihadists, as well as shutting down drug and human trafficking rings. But here's the question. How often has Pegasus also been used to go after a government's critics? If you were in Saudi Arabia You'd be in jail.
Well, I don't think I will be in jail. I don't think anyone will find my body like what Jamal Khashoggi has faced.
Ghanem al-Masrir is a Saudi comic living in London who has a popular YouTube satire show that takes aim at Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Last year, as the regime was kidnapping, locking up, and torturing Saudi dissidents, Ghanem says he and other critics abroad got text messages like this fake DHL notice that, if clicked, would download Pegasus onto their phones so they could be spied on. And you clicked on it, of course. Yeah, who's sending me a package? Now, Pegasus is designed to catch terrorists.
So who defined the terrorist? Do you think I am a terrorist? Or do I look like a terrorist? I don't know what.
I don't know what a terrorist looks like.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem is the Saudis consider people asking for freedom of speech as terrorists. They consider anybody who is a threat to their regime is a terrorist.
What do you do when your customer has a definition of terrorist that isn't our definition? In some countries, the opposition are terrorists.
No such thing. Every customer that we sold has a very clear definition of what terrorism is. And it's basically bad guys doing bad things in order to kill innocent people, in order to change the political agenda. I never met with a customer that told me that oppositions are terrorists.
Well, they're not going to tell you.
But if they will act like that, they will not going to be a customer. There are more than 100 countries that we will never sell our technologies to.
The problem is there are not proper controls around how this technology is being used. Based out of the
Ron Diebert heads Citizen Lab, a human rights watchdog at the University of Toronto, where researchers, like computer scientist Bill Marzak, say they figured out a way to detect if a phone has been targeted by Pegasus, which they did in the case of Ghanem al-Masrir and other Saudi dissidents.
This technology is being used by autocratic dictators who can mount global cyber espionage operations simply by purchasing the technology.
So you are saying that once they sell this technology, once the Israelis sell it, they know how it's being used?
Well, the question is, do they care to look? I think if they cared to look, they would have the opportunity to see how it was being used.
But Shalev Julio says NSO is unable to see who their clients are targeting. Only after there's an allegation of misuse can NSO demand target data in order to investigate.
And I can tell you that in the last 8 years that the company exists, we only had 3 cases of misuse. 3 cases. Out of thousands of cases of saving lives, 3 was a misuse. And those people or those organizations that misuse the system, they are no longer a customer, and they will never be a customer again.
The first case we uncovered in Mexico.
But Citizen Lab says it was able to find many more cases, 25 in Mexico alone, where Pegasus was used to target political rivals, reporters, and civil rights lawyers. They also say they found the Pegasus link on the phone of this human rights activist, Ahmed Mansour, from the United Arab Emirates.
I think that people that are not part of criminal or terrorist activities have nothing to worry about.
Tommy Shahar, NSO's co-president, says Pegasus is used with surgical precision.
It's not mass surveillance technology. This is really for the bin Ladens of the world.
But the reason that your company has been criticized, and the reason that we're here doing this interview, is because countries have used your technology on human rights activists, on journalists.
There are allegations that are being brought, there are reports that were said, and we take every such allegation very seriously, and we look into it. Nothing has been proven.
The story will continue after this.
To protect against misuse, she says, NSO has 3 layers of vetting potential customers. One by the Israeli Defense Ministry, a second by its own Business Ethics Committee, and thirdly,
Our contractual agreements have our customers sign that the only intended use of the system will be against terror and
Oh,
crime.
they sign. Come on. You have an autocratic government and they say, oh, we're not going to use it except against criminals. And you just believe them? No.
As I said, the contractual agreement comes
Yeah.
after 2 layers. And you know, I would love for you to sit in one of our business ethics committee. We have a tough discussion because imagine a country is facing major terrorist threats. In the same time, they have some corruption issues. And you have to sit in that room and weigh what is more important, to help them fight terror, or maybe there is a chance that it's going to be misused. It's not a black and white answer. It's a tough ethical question.
there are other ethical questions in deploying Pegasus. To hone in on a target, for instance, authorities often infect the phones of innocent people around them, like family members. It's been reported that Mexican authorities used Pegasus to capture drug lord Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, by tapping the phones of a few people he talked to while he was on the lam.
I read it in the newspaper, the same as you.
Okay.
In order to catch El Chapo, for example, they had to intercept a journalist, an actress, and a lawyer. Now, by themselves, they're not criminals, right?
Right.
But if they are in touch with a drug lord, and in order to catch them, you need to intercept them, that's a decision that intelligence agencies should get. What if you can prevent the 9/11 terror attack? And for that, you had to intercept the son, the 16 years old son of bin Laden. Would that be legit or not?
Targeting someone's inner circle has become an issue in the Khashoggi case. Omar Abdulaziz, an influential Saudi online critic based in Canada, was texting with Khashoggi up to his death. Now Abdulaziz is suing NSO, alleging that the Saudis used Pegasus to hack his phone and thereby spy on Khashoggi. We asked Shalev Julio if his investigation explored the wider circumference around the slain journalist.
I can tell you that we've checked, and we have a lot of ways to check. And I can guarantee to you, our technology was not used on Jamal Khashoggi or his relatives.
Or the dissidents?
Or
like
the relatives.
Omar Abdulaziz and...
I'm not going to get into specific and tell you that if we will figure out that somebody has misused the system, we will shut down the system immediately. We have the right to do it, and we have the technology to do it.
It begs the question, did you shut down the Saudis?
I'm not going to talk about customers, and I'm not going to go into specific. We do what we need to do. We help create a safer world.